Yo, what's up? I've already recorded this 5 times with technical issues, so let's get right through it. I'm the card game philosopher, and welcome to my deck profile of my Dragonlink deck that won the Western Europe Remote Duel Invitational. I went undefeated, 10-0 I guess, 7 rounds of Swiss, 3 rounds with the top 8. And here's some, I'll do shoutouts afterwards, and here's some info before we get into it so that you can understand more of my card choices. The first thing is that I used to, in my previous recordings, I tried to explain why I thought Dragonlink was best deck. If you want to know why I think it's best deck, I'll just discuss with you guys in the comments or something. It's fine, because I won't do it again. I've tried too many times, it just makes a video too long. It's the best deck, guys, trust me. Something that I did want to talk about, that I still want to mention that's really important, is with the Western Europe Invitational, the one who participated were the Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, France, Switzerland, Portugal, and Spain. Maybe I'm missing someone, don't think I am. If you know some country I missed for this one, leave it in the comments below, but I think those were the ones. And one of the biggest communities out of that, as far as I knew, was the French one, so I based myself mostly on my own countries, being the Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg. And basing myself on the French one, I felt like if I prepared for those metas the most, I would be properly prepared. And the two big outliers with those two events, more than any other, were first, the fact that there was an insane amount of Prankits players in France. Insane. It's more played than any other deck there, as far as I could see. And the representation, both in the deck breakdowns from player participants, as well as in the top cuts, I just really believe, maybe there's some other reason, like I heard for example that Susie plays Prankits a lot and is one of the French big streamers, our current European champion, if I remember correctly. So yeah, that might all be influencing that a lot. So yeah, I definitely felt like I had to prepare for Prankits, which is a good thing, because I had to face Prankits 4 times throughout the tournament, 3 times in Swiss, and then 1 more time the same guy from round 3. I had to play again in top 4. So it was really good that I prepared for Prankits. And then the other thing for that I was a really big outlier was the fact that throughout these regions there was an extreme lack of Drytron. In their last extravaganza, which the players that played that didn't qualify for this event, but it still showed what the French meta was after the last set. They had more than 100 players, so definitely a big enough amount of players to actually base information on, which is also something I felt like was kind of lacking in the other regions, because I feel like it could just shift too much. I know my own region enough, but yeah, it's just still hard to try and guess. Always a disaster when I try to play our own extravaganzas or stuff. But in over 100 players, the French extravaganza last time had 1 Drytron player. That one got to top 16, so congrats to that player. Don't know who it is, because I couldn't see the deck profile. But yeah, it definitely showed that there was a big lack of it, and it was just 2 weeks before this event. So I felt like, yeah, no, in 2 weeks, I don't think the people will invest the time and money in playing Drytron. So I just looked at my own region where I knew like max 1 or 2 players would play Drytron, and then I looked at the French one, which I had only 1. I just decided like, okay, it's going to be an event of maybe 100 people. I'm just going to assume that I will play max 1 round against Drytron. And I kind of ignored, not completely ignored, but I didn't prepare as much for the Drytron matchup as I, for example, did the day before this event on the on the YCS VIP qualifier that I played in the German and Nordics Discord, where Germany and the Nordics, I expected way more Drytron, expected way more kind of let's say meta than I expected on this event. So yeah, that's something you have to take a part of that. And I also had before something I have to say is I had a lot of space issues. that I couldn't properly solve. And also made it that I played 41 cards in the end, which I personally hate. But I couldn't find any more to cut into it. So I'm sure you guys can find stuff to cut into it, but there was nothing I could cut into it anymore, me personally. I know some cards I could have cut it, but just didn't want to. And this is in the end what it became to. Some ratios, because that will be kind of weird. So prepared for that. So the first thing is the Rokket engine, I guess. Of 3 Tracer, 2 Synchron, 1 Recharger, 1 Epsa Router. This is pretty standard. The only one that's odd, I guess, is that I play 3 Tracer instead of 2. But that's not that odd even. My reasoning for it is the fact that I play 3 Tracer instead of 2 because I was prepared for main deck Droll. And when you get main deck Drolled, or when you will face it, you want to have open Tracer. Because often when you get Drolled in this deck, one of your only searches was Boot Sector. And you can also always guarantee yourself to have at least a Boot Sector if you get Drolled. So in that case, if you have Tracer, you can continue to play. While if you play only 2, in a lot of those cases, you actually do have to hard pass there. And I also, for grind games and stuff like that, I wanted to make sure I had enough rockets to search with Epso, or to special summon with Quick Launch or stuff like that. If you open, for example, to Quick Launch, it's terrible. But if you play a big enough Rokket engine, it becomes a lot less worse. I've also, in the past, this is something I just want to have as a remark, I've played 2 Rechargers. However, I did that because of decks like Elpy, which used Haquaro to banish my Recharger, and those decks both banish my Recharger and force me into the grind game. So in those times I played a second Recharger to make sure I was better. I stayed in the grind game a lot better. And I wanted to play 2 Epsa Router, however I couldn't find a second one, so that's a good remark. That also changed a few of my decisions with other cards. And this time I didn't feel like I had to play a second Recharger because Elpy kind of disappeared. So that's the Rokket engine. Then one card that has been slightly influenced by Epsa Router is Seyfert. I think Seyfert as a 1-card starter is a terrible card right now in DLink. Why do I think that? Because it plays into pretty much every single hand trap if you play it as a 1-card starter. Your opponent has Ash, your play is stopped, and you have nothing to go into at that point either. If your opponent has Droll, you can't do the combo either. If your opponent has Lancia, you also cannot go into your place either. Like against pretty much any hand trap that's relevant right now, or that will be played against you after side, you just auto lose if you try to do the 1-card combo with Seyfert. To make up for that, I love the 2-card combo with Seyfert if you just play it with Epsa Router, where you do start Seyfert, pitch Epsa Router, search Noctovision, and then use the effect of Epsa Router to search Tracer, then go into Striker Dragon, search Boot, and summon this. And then you can go into Seal, get the draw of the Nocto, and you have your Tracer, your Boot Sector, a free draw, and your Seal to play through Nibiru. That's perfect. But because I couldn't find an Epsa Router, a second Epsa Router, that play was just too unreliable, even if I played Seyfert at 3. So, this way, Seyfert is still needed for the deck. It's absolutely needed. You still want to take back the Livioneer. You still want to mill this off of Chaos Ruler sometimes. You still can summon this with Elpy to search your Chaos Babies. You can still do these plays even if you play less than 3 of them. You can still open those. You can still pitch one of those to just search, Phantasme, for example, that's also in the deck. Like, there's many things, so many flexibility that Seyfert can still be played. However, it's just bad as a 1-card starter right now. It's just a consistency card right now. And as that, I didn't feel like I wanted to max out on this, because it would force me too many times in just using it as a 1-card starter, which I didn't want to be forced into. to Nocto, and yeah, of course, I might have still played it at 3 if I had the space, but as I said, I already played 41 cards, I had space issues, so with all these arguments, I felt like it was one of the first cards I could cut on. Then Noctovision is also a card I felt like I could cut on. Sorry. It's also a card I could cut on. One thing with Noctovision is, I feel like you should play at least one. You should play definitely at least one, even if it's just for the play with Safer that I just said. And it's one of your best extenders. Getting a draw, its graveyard effect, giving you protection for your tidying, and it being able to be an extender through that isn't stopped by any hand trap, and even protecting you against hand traps or interrupts if you have to play going second. Is just really good. Being able, like, the fact that it can sometimes just protect you of like the Appaloosa negate or something, where they think like, it's worth it, is just amazing. Or something that destroys, or a savage, like in all those cases, just really good that you have this. So then, why not just play it at 1? Because I felt like it was too good, especially if I wanted to keep playing through trolls and lancias and stuff like that. I felt like I wanted to have as many options as possible to play through those hand traps with the combination of hands I could get in this deck. And I also wanted to be able to, if I didn't open this, I still wanted to increase the odds a little bit of I want to increase the odds a little bit of milling this with my mill 5 of Chaos Ruler for an extra protection, without actually increasing the chances too much of opening multiples of those or breaking on this. So yeah, because this is one of your best extenders, but it's also almost just an extender. It's not a starter. You can't normal summon it. You can't. If you can't send this away with Savers and add something that continues your combo. So in a lot of ways, it's terrible to have this, and especially it's terrible to draw a second copy of this with one. But that's a bit of a dumb reasoning to just do it for just that reason, because then you would also just play 2 Desires, right? Or 1 Desire, which also just as dumb. But yeah, if I would have the space, I would have maybe still played 3, but I just didn't have it. Chaos Babies, don't need to explain those. Livian here, don't need to explain it. Bro Tower, don't need to explain it. Like, all of this should be standard if you've played Dragon Link before already. If you haven't, go find guides or ask for guides in the comments. I might do those if you feel like you want to know more about how I play this deck. Then I played 2 Chamber Dragon Maid. Once again, there's 2 things that didn't make me play 3 of those. One was the fact that once again, space is an issue, and I didn't want to play too many normal summons. So together with Safer and this, I right now played 4 cards that I plan on normal summoning. That's a good normal summon, I guess. And they can, of course, that's the best thing about Dragon Link. You don't have to normal summon them, but you can. However, and the other reason I didn't play a 3rd one was the fact that I found out I sold my 3rd one already, because it's money. So that's an F. And however, if you've looked at lists lately and you've seen this at 3 and 1, and you ask yourself like, why? I guess it's just basically a difference in this card plays multiple roles, and people that play it at 1 see it as just a card like Bro Tower that you want to summon off Elpy and only want to normal summon in your worst case scenario, and people who play this at 3 see this as a starter. So I guess that's the big difference, because why some people played at 1, some people played at 3, and I see it as a little bit of both and just stuck in between, I guess. The rest of the Dragon Maid engine is also important to go over, I guess, because I played this spicy card, Hospitality, again. Is it that spicy? I don't know. I look back at old lists that I've played. People who play Dragon Link for a while now remember this card for sure. People who don't, this was played when we still had Link Cross and everything, because it made Chamber in a 1-card Dragon Link combo. Because what it does is you special summon 1 Dragon Maid monster from your hand or graveyard in defense position. The second effect isn't relevant, especially if you play Chamber as your only Dragon Maid. So with this, you can do normal summon Chamber, add this, make Chamber into Striker Dragon, activate, summon the Chamber again, and go into Romulus and go to full combo. So that's something I wanted to have as an option. Especially because I felt like this was a way to have in-engine, a way to just, if you open just this, to just do your combo, and also just to have in-engine a way to have an extender that plays through Lancia and Droll. If you get drolled on adding this, you can still end on your seal. And you only add this if you don't have this yet, or if this was your only normal summon anyway. So in those cases, it's fine. You can still end on something at least if you play this. If you're already open tiding, being able to search is great. And also in the follow-up, in the third turn, which if you go first and then they have a turn, and then the third turn of the duel, I think this is also really important, because in those cases, if you use the tidying grave effect, and you summon the chamber, and you know your opponent's cards, or you know what you can expect, and you feel like I need to push here, and you need the extra summon, you can add Hospitality instead of a tidying, because you can't use the graveyard effect anyway, and you can just add Hospitality to extend further. Only do this, that is a kind of a risky play though, so be able to calculate that risk for yourself if you will do that or not, otherwise just take the tidying so you have something to end on. So yeah, that's why I played the Hospitality. And why I play 3 tidying, because I've seen that a lot of people don't play this at 3. I feel like you want to open this card. You do. You can send it away with Ravine to make sure to get this as an extra special summon, so you can summon Bro Tower with Elpy, then you just send this to the grave together with Chamber. If you're already open to Tracer, of course, otherwise you're kind of forced in doing Abso, but having that option to just send the tidying to a grave, send this with it, banish the tidying, summon this, effect of this, summon another tidying, because it hasn't used its effect, of course, yet. It felt so good to me. And also in the grind game, you want to be able to search with the chamber multiple times so that you can keep in the game. This and Recharger and your Livianeer loop, I guess, with Safers are your best weapons in the grind game. And where are those the most important? Where is Chamber the most important, in my opinion, together with Tidying? It's against decks that force you into that grind game. The ways to do that, to force Dragon Link into the grind game, is by having the hard hand traps multiple times, or by having the floodgates, like, I don't know, an Order, or Macro, or stuff like that. And in those games, if you only play 2 Tidying, you're going to probably... I am quite certain, especially when I tested it as well, I missed the third one. I felt like I've lost games in the grind game that I shouldn't have lost if I had the third one. Just because I couldn't grind as long, so I was out-resourced faster. With the third one, you don't have that issue. And it's not bad to open this, once again. It's not bad to open this at all. You can pitch it off of Bro Tower, you can pitch it off of Dragon Ravine, you can pitch it off of Quad Borrel, and all of them makes it into an extra extender. It's not bad to open it. Then one Phantasme. I want to do this up separate from the hand traps because I didn't actually play this as a hand trap. So that also explains why I only played one. I didn't play one just because, well, sometimes you want to open it, sometimes you don't. No, I was actually convinced that sure, if I opened this against a game that I could actually use as a hand trap, cool, that's nice. But it wasn't why I played it. I didn't play this for the mirror or something because I wanted to open it against them. It's fine that you have it in your deck and that it can it can happen, but it's not what I wanted to play it for. What I wanted to play this for was to special summon it off of Elpy and go into game with Boral Sword. What I want to play this for is to summon this with Seal and then bounce it with my Tidying so it was live in hand so that I had a higher ceiling. I wanted to play this so that I had a beater in my deck because if you've not noticed, we're done with the Dragon Link engine going for monsters. I'm not playing Black Metal Dragon and Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon because I felt like those were terrible. They played both into the Droll and into Lancia, and even though sure Red Eyes can extend through Droll, I thought it was one of the worst ways to do it because it just felt really bad. Then in that point I never liked it. And Red MD was also a really hard break to have. If you I've lost a few times now in finals of Giant Cards or Extravaganza or stuff in important rounds where I lost because I opened at Red Eyes together with the Nocto and then like maybe a Livineer or Boot Sector, stuff like that. You just get those hands sometimes and you can't do anything. The red eyes also always needs to go even 1-on-1 before it can go plus, and I just felt like it was bad. Getting impermanence on that as well. Usually you don't lose against an impermanence or Vader, but when you go to the play for red eyes, a Vader can stop your turn right there, and it's also just not a card you can play to. It's also not a card you can play to go into your guard dragons. So in many ways, I just felt like it wasn't a good card to have, and I played it for a while without black metal, just as an to summon off of seal, and extend further through that again. But I kind of realized that I rarely wanted to do that, first of all. And second of all, I realized that most people, when I had to seal, didn't Nibiru me anyway. So I felt like it just wasn't needed. I just felt like it wasn't the best option to go for. And so I cut that, but I still wanted to have a monster that I could just special summon with a lot of attack for just those kind of games. And Phantasme filled that role together with being able to summon it off seal, which was one of my more favorite plays, and being able to just search it with a Bro Tower or search it with something else. Just like every way you can just increase your ceiling without like and have it be another. This played multiple roles. Let's just end it on that line. This card played a lot of roles, and I felt like that made it a good card in this deck. It's also able to be pitched off of Chaos Space and stuff. Like, I can just keep going on about it. I'm sorry. Then for the actual hand traps, I played 2 Vader and 2 Skullmeister. The reasons I played these as my hand traps, I chose these as my hand traps, were, first of all, they're light and dark, and that's just really important to me in this deck. Every card I play, I wanted to interact and have as much synergy with the rest of my deck as possible. So they're light and dark, so I can pitch them off of Chaos Space. I can banish them if I've used them already for my Chaos Babies or for Livianier. I can banish them for like especially the light one, because you're often in you don't have enough lights. You can banish it for like Chaos Ruler, or I don't know, there's so many options. If you, for example, get into a play where you have to go Hulk, you don't have a light in your graveyard, so if you have this in any way that you can use it, you can still have the Livianier live the turn after. So in many ways, playing light and dark hands are just the best way. And also the fact that you can add these with Chaos Ruler to, instead of like a follow-up play, to just increase your ceiling if you already have a follow-up play, or if your grave is filled enough that you don't need much more. Adding something like this just feels way more impactful. Like, just imagine the Dragonlink board if they end on something like a Seal, Boral, Hot Red Dragon, a set Tidying, a monster to bounce with the Tidying, and then something like this in hand. You're not going to win that duel anymore. It's kind of decided already, I guess. Because even if you open the hate cards, like you open a Dark Ruler or Droplets and stuff, you need to open so many set cards to just get through that. And this is just only in like the thing that Dragonlink can do through combo. That just ignores the fact that they might have something like an Appointer or an Order or Anti-Spell or a Judgment if they want to play that kind of stuff. Like, all of those things are still an option as a non-engine if you want to actually bring in the non-engine cards. Or they could have had a Call By or a Triple Tactics and just look at your opponent's hand and taken away cards from that. So yeah. And normally I would have just maxed out on Vader, because at least it's a card that can stop Drytron, my worst matchup. And it's really good against Zutrai, I felt like. And it's a level 1 tuner, which in some cases, like when you do your complete combo with Chaos Space, you can normal summon this and just use it together with Chaos Ruler to go into Hot Red Dragon Arch in Abyss. Even if you add it with Chaos Ruler, sometimes you could just do like, okay, then I normal summon it and go into Hot Dragon Events to just extend a little further. And it's a tuner for Hulk, so usually all reasons go to, like, being light is slightly better, I'll go to 2. But because it was the France meta, I want to be prepared for Prankits. I also played 2 Skullmeister and try to find space for that. To make sure that if I just knew if I play these and I open these against Prankits, so many times I just have to pass on that. So I just wanted to have something in my main deck that didn't hurt too much and would just drastically increase my matchup against Prankits. And I saw it so much. It was so good. My Prankits opponents can probably testify to how much they hated the fact that I played this. 3 Chaos Space, the best and the worst card of your deck. It's insane. It's too insane to not play a 3. You just have to play the 3. It's so good. But it also feels so bad that it plays into every single hand trap that fucks you over. It loses to Droll, it loses to Droll, it loses to Lancia, it loses to Ash. So it feels really bad. But it's just so insane. You have to play it. It's just the part where you just have to take the L if it happens. Because if it doesn't happen, it's just a high risk, high reward card with this deck. It's wonderful. 3 Quick Lunge. The fact that this isn't a once per turn and that this is just insane. And this is one of the ways you yeah. Do I need to explain this? This thing is insane. Fuck off. It's insane. 2 World Legacy Guard Dragon. Okay, this one I guess I have to explain. I'm not playing 3. I think there was a good reason to play 3 this format. Since this is one of the ways that you can play through hand traps, through the Droll. Because then you can do normal summon a tuner, go to boot, effect of the boot. Summon Striker, add the boot, and then they troll you. And then you can just do this, summon the Rokket Synchron or the Rokket Tracer, doesn't matter, go into Hulk summon Synchron, make Elpy, effect, move, and do the whole combo. Then you end on Appaloosa instead of like Seal, but that's fine. They've already lost a card out of their hand, so usually you're pretty fine there. However, this is also one of the ways that you brick. If you open this with like the Noctos, Phantasmic, Boot Sector, other stuff, a hand trap, or you can't do anything with it. Even if you open 2 of those, or like as soon as you open 2 of those, your hand is already instantly worse. So, and against a lot of fields right now as well, they bounce your cards, so it doesn't properly extend through your opponent's boards usually. So in those ways, I felt like this is one of your best extenders, but playing more than 2 is asking for trouble, I feel. And 3 droplets, because I was prepared to lose die rolls. And that's a good thing, because I think I lost my first 4 or 5 die rolls this tournament. So I was really happy that I at least I played those. I didn't open them as much, but it's just so insane. And I want to have something to make sure that I could win against the mirror, or that could play through that would make it just easier to play against the mirror, or Tri-Brigade, or in the grind game against Zeus, or like so many things that this makes it just so much easier. And going first, unlike Dark Ruler for example, you can set this and just it makes your field once again better. So yeah, it just play 3. That's just like no matter if you like hand traps or not, you at least should be playing the droplets. Then the weird one out is I played 1 Cosmic Cyclone. Shoutouts to the one guy who played Invoke Dogmatica and played 3 droplet 1 Cosmic Cyclone, making me feel less insane for doing this. I wanted to just have... The one thing is, I wanted to have 1 into the deck, just for the possibility. To explain further on that, to just be like, oh yes, play once, open sometimes, but not all the time. If you've played the DragonLink deck already, you can go through so many cards in your first turn that your deck is usually only like, 20 cards or less than 20 cards left. So if the Cosmic Cyclone is still in there, and you have to play against, for example, a Floodgate or something, like, I don't know, maybe you get Tikaboo Strike or something, and you just lost your field. Shit like that can happen. It's one of the biggest things they can do going second against you. Then sure, you have Tidying, but if you don't, sure you can do Tidying, but if your Tidying is in the graveyard because you went first, and you can't summon the Chamber because you still have a dragon on the field, of course, then this just becomes one of... Having this in your deck is just a really great option to make sure that you don't have to scoop there yet. Because I didn't want to take too many L's instantly. Like, that's what I said. Like, I didn't want to decrease the risk as much as possible. And just the fact that you could sometimes... Like, you draw so many cards through your combo. Sometimes, if you want to, like, through Nocto, through Chaos Space, through other stuff. if you're able to just draw into this to just remove the back row, was just a really good thing. And even going first, this is great. Opening this against a Tri-Brigade player or Tri-Zoo player or the Mirror, or having this to just play on the Schism or stuff like that, or the Meltdown if you're playing against Invoke, whatever. Like, there's many ways that this is just really good going first. Usually sided it out for the Twin Twisters afterwards because they didn't want to lose against Lancia, but yeah, no, this is a really good card. And I would have played... I might have played more if I had more space, but it's just... This was basically my 41 card. You can see it. If you want to cut on something as well, cut this. This was basically my 41 card. Then one Call By. Call By is good. Dragon Ravine, that's needed. Boot Sector, your brick. That was the main deck. 30 minutes in already. Let's go, guys. I'm sorry. This is in-depth. If you didn't want an in-depth deck profile, just look at the picture and be satisfied with it. I guess I'll go for the side deck first, because the actual deck is kind of standard. I played 2 Lancia. I once again went for a whole lot of 2-ups because I just wanted to be prepared for as much matchups as possible. With Lancia as well, I felt like it was kind of justified because you can do this going first and end with Chaos Ruler as well. 2 Draw on Lockbird. That one a little less satisfied, but you know, side deck is really tight always. As well as, how do I say this? I didn't expect the decks I needed to play this so much. I didn't expect too much Invoke to Shadow Dogmatica anymore. I didn't expect the Mirror that much. And I also felt like I didn't expect Drytron that much. So with that considered, I just felt like, you know, and even against those decks, it's not always an auto win. So I played 2, but I mostly still wanted to prepare for Tri-Zoo and Prankets. And these weren't meant for either of that. Lancia is optional against Tri-Zoo, but I just usually didn't do it. Then one Psycho Reader for the Drytron matchup. I wanted to have something to just be like, you know, if I had the bad luck of playing against Drytron once, I hoped I just had the good luck to open this. And I also couldn't find any more than... Otherwise, I might have just played, you know, 3 Psycho Reader, 2 Lancia to just make the free matchup. But I couldn't find more than 1 Psycho Reader, so I just had to settle with this as well. 1 Pancratops, never even cited this by the way. This was maybe a bit dumb. I also made this decision late at night, so... yeah, sorry for that one. I played 1 Pancratops because I just feel like this is one of the best ways to get through so many fields that you otherwise lose to. Standard fields like a bunch of negates or a bunch of this or that, you can usually play through to just your engine or a droplet or something like it. But Pancratops helps against those fields that are weird to play against. It just, if you ever have a field that you feel like this is weird to play against or play around or play through, it's usually Pancratops that would really, really help you there. So that's the monsters. 3 Twin Twisters for Prankit specifically. More than anything, I just played 3 of those to just play against Prankit. Because in the end, if you can just in standby phase, just get rid of the Pandemonium or the Strike or whatever they have set, you're good for that duel. You're good. You're fine. You've won more often than not. They can't do anything else because it's usually their only real play. Their whole combo that you can try and stop with the Skullmeister or with your hand traps or an Ash or whatever, it usually doesn't end on much more than something that can be stopped by a Twin Twister. So, yeah, definitely had to play 3 to just make sure that I could open it against Prankits as much as possible game 2 or 3 and just remove them. And against any other deck, like Trap decks, which is one of your second worst matchups, this also helps a lot, which is also why I play 1 Duster. But, yeah. This is not that good against Prankits in my opinion, because I never sided in against that deck either. Because I just felt like their back row is usually chainable, or it's not that impressive that I should Duster it. The most important one is Pandemonium, and that's just doesn't lose to Duster, so. 2 Triple Tactic Talents. It's mostly for going first. Didn't want to play more than 2 because this is weird card. Really weird card. It's great to open because one of the best counters you can have against all the hand traps and stuff right now. However, it's not a play on its own, and it's not a defensive card, and if you open more than one of them, it's useless, and in a lot of ways it's just bad to open more than one. So I played 3 for a while, and while I played 3, I had so many times that I opened 2, or I drew into my second one with a Nocto or something else, and it became really awkward, and just didn't wanna keep playing more than 2. I just wanted to. I just didn't want to play more than 2. And it's also good against something like Dinos or stuff to play second, to just take over their Conductor or Dragoon decks or stuff like that. Or against Zoo, to steal Zeus. But yeah. I played 1 Mystic Mine in my side deck for the Tri-Zoo matchup. Against many decks, I felt like they could. It was mostly for the Tri-Zoo, but just in general, I felt like there were many decks that just sided out their back row removal against me, and then just tried to set up as good as a board as possible, taking away as many cards from their main deck as possible. And I just felt like if I can, for all those decks, just activate Mystic Mine and pass, I usually win a game, because they will just go deck out. However, just even ignoring that, you can also just, against decks that make big boards with lots of monsters, activate Mystic Mine first, do Chaos Space so you don't get Lancia, don't get Drolled, all those kind of stuff. You can't get Gamma, you can get all their negates, all don't work against you. So that's a way to just do all your preparational plays first. Then you can go to the Striker and stuff. All of those plays also can't be stopped. And then at the point that you have more, that before you go to a point where you go for Guard Dragon plays and stuff, and you would actually realistically have more monsters than your opponent and need to use effects, you've already replaced this with a Boot Sector. So yeah, this just seemed great, and I started to think why I didn't play this earlier. I didn't side it in that much because I just didn't face that much Tri-Zoo and matchups where I needed this. But because, for example, against Prankits and stuff, this card wasn't good. But otherwise, I would probably, if I go to another event where I expect that I can actually make more use of this, I think I'll actually max out on this even. So then again, 1 Reboot because I want Trap decks to be a free win, and 1 Order. Because going first, I feel like all the hate that comes to you that's not a hand trap is Droplet, Dark Ruler, Cosmic Cyclones, Chalices, their own plays. So being able to stop all of that with Order just makes those times a free win. I don't want to, like, there's people who play more for going first, but I felt like just playing those 3 cards, especially if I look at my main deck and what I wanted to take out if I go first, this was usually enough to side in and take out, like, I could take out the Cosmic Cyclone or something if that was or the hand trap that didn't align with the deck I faced, or a Phantasme if I didn't want to do that, and I could just side this in, and then my deck was suddenly a lot better. But you don't need to side in that much to go first, because your deck is already so good at going first. So there's your main thought process should be about going second. So only 1 card that is only for going first. No anti-spells and stuff because of that, because it's all just, you don't need it. It's just to make it better. It's just to take out cards in your main deck that you don't want to have there. Droplets or some stuff maybe. Then for the extra deck, this one is pretty standard. 3 Striker Dragon because it's insane. 1 Pisty Elpy because it's insane. 1 Romulus because it gets you to your plays if you didn't open Tracer. 1 Hulk to play through to play through the big hand traps. 2 Seal because that's your standard play, and if you can't finish it the second time, you can still have the option on ending on this. And if you get Nibiru while you have this on the field and you haven't used Tracer yet, you can just make another one. 1 Quad Boral because it's an extender. If you know Dragon Link, you know how essential this is. The rest of the solved extra deck: 1 Chaos Ruler, 1 Hot Red Dragon, 1 Savage. It's all kind of solved. 1 Boral Sword because that's how you OTK, that's how you finish it in turn 3, or if you go second. And then the final one is Appaloosa. Appaloosa is, I guess, the only card that I see change sometime and change myself. But looking at how important the ending on Hulk was, like going for the Hulk place was. I just felt like you had to play the Appaloosa. It wasn't just no doubt, because that's the only thing you can go into then. Like I've played, for example, stuff like Abomination and sometimes with Silver Rockets or stuff like that. Or if I expected more back row or roguish, you don't go for this because it does nothing against the back row decks, and you just go for Abomination instead, triggering your own tracers, taking away their back row. Sure, but this event I just expected mostly Prankets and stuff, and then ending on this with like 2 or 3 negates and then just another bounce and another negate on your field. It's so hard for them to get through. So yeah, that was the deck. I want to do shoutouts to my team, Team Card Guild. I want to do shoutouts to my homies, to everyone who helped. Notable people that aren't in my team that I want to do shoutouts to is the people like Max van Iversel, which I had a talk with. I want to do a shoutouts to Bart Ledru. I got to talk to him afterwards, after all, but playing against him really helped a lot. Sean Smet, he really made me more confident in playing against Drytron and knowing what it does. Shout out! It's another special shout out to all the cards all the people who lent me cards, and shout out to my girlfriend for just being really supportive the whole event and wanting to be kept up to date and just motivating me a lot. And shout out to the event organizer, guys. And shout out to my opponents for being so chill. So that's it. Really in that one. I think I explained all my card choices. If you have any other questions, leave them in the comments below. I wasn't interested in doing just some service level deck profile for this. So here it is. Any more if you want to know why I think Dragon Link was the best deck, sure, I'm willing to talk about that in the comment sections, and hopefully see you guys next time with another topping deck list. Next step, is it another invitational? I don't know what it's called, but next step will be that event. I hope to see you guys there in the watchers chat, and thanks for watching. Card Game Philosopher out.